Journey to Truth podcast is brought to you by Omnia Radiation Balancer. Omnia Radiation Balancer is a device that protects against the microwave radiation that we're bombarded with every day from the cell phone towers, Wi-Fi routers, smart meters, all of it. Tim Sanders, who we've had on a previous podcast, has developed a solution that negates the threat to our vibrational body from these microwaves. It's a patch that you apply to any radiating device, such as a phone, laptop, like I said, smart meter, microwave, Wi-Fi routers, all of it. And it's proven to reduce DNA damage, reduce stress, headaches, anxiety. It helps improve blood circulation, immune system function, energy levels, sleep quality. There's a whole laundry list of stuff it does. For more information and to purchase one of these patches, click the link below at omniaradiationbalancer.com. We hope you're enjoying the podcast. Thanks for watching.
Boom.
Hey, welcome to Journey to Truth podcast. Tonight we have on Tricia Margis, host of 90 Degree Turn podcast and YouTube channel. She's had on some awesome guests, Corey Good, James Gilliland, Edge of Wonder, so many other amazing people. She is also co-host of Cosmic Table Talk, which is Spirit Being Alliance YouTube channel. And I can't wait to hear some more about that and the future of that project. So we're going to turn it over to you. Thanks for coming on and joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. This is a cool opportunity.
Yeah. We were just talking before we started. So this is one of her very few times being interviewed. She's used to being on the other side. So this should be interesting. I'm curious if you just want to go into just how you got started and why you wanted to do this 90 Degree Turn channel and what inspired you.
Okay. Well, I kind of just grew up in a very spiritual kind of household. So I was quite influenced by that when I was younger because my mom was doing quantum QHHT from Dolores Cannon. So I was hearing about past life regression and reptilians. Maybe when I was in high school was the first time I really started hearing that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And so I feel like personally my own spiritual journey was kind of different because I'd heard about these things from my parents and I was like, I have to go study for my world history exam, which doesn't have anything to do with reptilians. So I kind of casted that on its own. I'm like, my parents are doing their own thing. Great. I'm going to do mine. And so I saw The Secret and I was into the law of attraction and things of that nature, the subconscious mind. And eventually that kind of grew into me in college when I really started to, wake up. I would say when I really started to wake up because I dove into topics of GMO foods and the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry and the food industry and the banking industry. So I kind of really dove into all these really hard-hitting rabbit holes and then get into meditation, all these other things. So I was involved and around it for quite a while before I felt kind of comfortable to speak about it with other people in mass. So the way that 90 Degree Turn started was a few years prior to the inception of the show. I got really into sacred geometry. And so I was studying a ton of sacred geometry. I read the Drunvalo Melchizedek's Flower of Life books.
Yes,
there's a volume.
I was going to ask you if that's how you got the name for your channel.
Absolutely.
From that book. Because they talk about
book.
that having something to do with the speed of light or whatever it is. I don't remember, but I read that book.
It's basically to get into another dimension, right? If you think even in 3D terms, right? You have first dimension, second, third, and those are all different 90 degree angles, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you take it even further to get to another dimension. The theory goes that you take a 90 degree turn. So that was a big, I guess, catalyst in my own, I really dove into sacred geometry. And so that was to me a great topic. So I'm like, why not kind of make a channel that for people who are in the know, they will get the reference, and others who might not be aware of it, I can simply explain that you're just turning your head, right? A 90 degree turn to look at a different perspective.
Sure.
So kind of a two-part thing there. So to go back to your question then, so I had started the channel because I finally felt confident enough that I have learned a lot, and I think I'm always a student, there's always more to learn, but I finally want to kind of be a lighthouse to others and show look, there's someone in Chicago, in the Midwest, not everyone's only in California and the West Coast, and I want to be a lighthouse for others to be, okay, there's other people here. And I guess I was really just letting go of being scared of what my friends would think and everything. That was like the big catalyst for me, because I was terrified that I'd lose all my friends, and most of them stayed, which is cool, you know. So
I think that's a big fear for all of us doing this.
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. So yeah, that was the start of the channel. And so I had gone to East Study that same year in 2018. I think that was like my second time there, and I just thought, you know what, I see a lot of people doing cool things, and I want to try it out. So I went out there later that year again and started interviewing people, and James was on, and Peter Maxwell Slattery they were one of the first 2 guests on the show.
Nice.
So they helped kind of help me get out there. And really, I interviewed 5 people at that entire week I was there, and it kind of really got me into the groove of, okay, I guess I'm doing this now.
So,
you know.
That's awesome.
That's super cool, because prior to that, they didn't know who you were, correct?
I mean, they knew I'd visited a few times,
okay.
But I knew James because I went to the summer conference, but I didn't know who Peter was until I was there, and he happened to be there too, so we got to talking.
That's really cool, because I watched your channel. I'm like, she does a lot of interviews in person. How does she? Is she always traveling or what? But you just knocked them all out in one weekend, essentially.
Yeah, I was there for like a week and a half or so, and there were a lot of people that live in that general Southern Washington area. So they all happened to be on the ranch at that time. So I'm like, well, what a better opportunity, because I wasn't planning on going there to interview. I was just planning to take a week long, a vacation from my work, you know. and then I started talking, because I had this idea that I wanted to create a podcast, and I had this little post-it note of people that I had wanted to interview, but at that time I didn't know how that was going to happen, at all. I just knew, okay, eventually I want to do something like this, it'll unfold. And lo and behold, it kind of just happened a few months later.
Yeah, we can relate with that.
Yeah. Totally.
It's just manifesting. And if it's and you're in alignment with your mission, when it just falls in your lap like that, you don't really try it, just there all of a sudden.
Exactly. Yeah. It literally just kind of happened, and I'm like, okay, this is great. This is exactly what I've been wanting.
Yeah.
You know, and it's here. So, okay, I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And congratulations. You're
you.
So successful. How long have you actually been a channel or a podcast now?
So I think I made the actual YouTube channel on August 8th, 2018. So 8/8/2018. Wow. But the idea, I guess, really started in the month prior, in July.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that was really it. July 2018 was the idea came to me, and then I just continued on with it. So
that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember first coming across the channel. I was like, it seemed like such a big channel. I was like, I've never even heard of this girl, you know? but no, I've since followed you, and then now you're co-hosting Cosmic Table Talk, which is really cool. I know you guys have only done a few episodes, but I think that's awesome. Just the whole premise of that is very cool.
Thank you. Yeah. So the way that started was I had the opportunity to interview Corey, and then I was just thinking of different ideas of what the community really needs, right? So there's a lot of people like us who have our own channels, and we are able to reach a lot of different people, right? Just by being ourselves and talking to other people, you know. And you guys will reach a different audience than I might, and someone else, you know, which is great because we spread the information everywhere. Yeah. But then I was thinking of what else is out there that that the community doesn't really have. And so I got inspired by Will Smith. His family has a show on Facebook. It's kind of like a community feel to it. I forget what it's called right now. I can't think of it at the moment, but basically the concept is that you get people to come on and you kind of have a community feel and talk and have a discussion. So similar to just doing interviews, but on top of it, we want to involve the community. So that concept kind of came through that we would have a variety of different co-hosts. And on top of that, we'd have a weekly segment or topic we'd talk about. And we'd have guests on that would be able to showcase their talent, knowledge, ability, and we'd have a discussion, you know. So for example, the previous episode was about censorship. So we had the Edge of Wonder guys on, and that was really great. And we also had another guy named Shem, And so he has a channel called Discerning the Mystery. So they were both attacked with censorship. As I feel like we all have some sort of censorship going on, but they were on a much larger scale where they could just be like, here is our data. This is what's happening. You know, so good, important topics that definitely the community, I think, needs to hear. And it's a slightly different format that we're all used to, you know?
Yeah. And everybody gets a chance to, it seems like it just all melts together so perfectly. Like everybody gets their time to talk, you know, no one's over talking each other. It's done well. It's done well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that. There's a good amount of work that definitely goes into it. So
yeah,
I appreciate it.
I like how you pull each person on like separately and like, or when you have a guest and stuff. Yeah, it's definitely some planning.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. I wish it'd be so flawless that it would just happen, but you know, not there yet.
You know, the only way to actually do that is to all be together in the studio. Like we're going to have difficulties when we're connecting across the nation like that. You know?
It's just a matter of figuring it out and making it work, you know?
Yeah. So you grew up in a spiritual family. That's amazing because I don't know hardly anyone, especially in that generation, that grew up already understanding this stuff. So you came into it at a really young age. And
yeah. I feel really, really blessed because I also haven't met other people who have parents who are awake. Maybe like once in a while you'll find someone with like one parent awake or something, which is great. You'll find like someone here and there, but like to have both parents that were talking about like reptilians and stuff, like when I was like 14, 15 in high school, like I don't think that's the norm by any means.
It's not.
No.
Well,
not in the Midwest, at least, especially.
Oh yeah, definitely not in the Midwest. So it's a really, really great opportunity, I'd say, and it was a nice resource, honestly, growing up. Because once I started waking up, I didn't like have friends who were into this stuff, right? So I could kind of go to my family as like a resource, which, I mean, it's amazing to be able to be like, hey, I heard about this. Do you guys know about this? And we'll like learn from each other, you know? Would you guys have any books that like were really like big catalysts for your own like awakening?
Bringers of the Dawn was a big one for me.
David Wilcock's books were big, and then some Dolores Cannon books. You actually mentioned your mom did QHHC. She was one of my early like YouTube people, and I bought 3 Ways of Volunteers and Convoluted Universe book 1. I've only read book 1. I want to go through the rest of them now, but she's actually from St. Louis, believe it or not.
Oh really?
I
thought she was from like Arkansas or something.
She moved to Arkansas later on, but she lived here for most of her life.
And what's really cool about that is a woman, her name is Dana Simpson. I'm sure she won't mind me giving her a shout out. She does the same work Dolores did, and she was trained personally by Dolores Cannon, and it's only 5 minutes away from my house. So I've done a past life regression with her and did the whole thing, and it's so amazing to have someone be in contact with someone who was physically trained and knew Dolores Cannon.
That's amazing.
That's really special.
Yeah, my mom was trained by Dolores herself too, 10 years ago. That's how I had no idea about past life regression until my mom went in for a session, and then she came back and she had this literally like a tape, and then we put it in the boombox and we'd listen to it, and I was like just blown away, because you know when like your family talks about certain stories or certain dreams they've always had and they don't understand like why they've had them, right? And then you kind of go in this particular story that my mom was saying, it directly correlated with a past life that she'd had, and it connected a lot of different family members and experiences in this life. It was just, oh man, it was so cool. It blew my mind as a kid. Even now, I mean, I think past life regression is such a amazing like tool, you know, especially if you know how to be able to guide the person and to find out like those really important answers that they've been searching for, you know, for who knows how many lifetimes. Like it's incredible.
What's also incredible is that you refer to it as a boombox. That's what I used to call it, the boombox. It was like,
it's like you can play the radio, you have the tape boombox. And the CD boombox.
I just haven't heard that in so long.
90s, probably. Oh
man. We need to
the good old days.
Gotta bring that back.
We need to sell Journey to Truth boombox.
Yeah. I'm down.
With a 90-degree turn button that flips the tape.
That'd be pretty rad.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh man. I was gonna piggyback off of what we were talking about. I came. You were talking about books.
Mm-hmm.
The Flower of Life. That book was one of the first, but the very first was a Dolores Cannon book. Before I even knew who she was, I just picked it up off the shelf randomly, and but the Flower of Life that was a big one for me.
Yeah. Me too. I definitely agree. Have you guys ever read Conversations with God?
I know about it, but I haven't read it yet.
That one was a really big one for me. Yeah. That one was a really big one for me because I remember my dad had suggested to read it, and I had a problem reading that book at first because I'm like, it's about God, and I was just like, I don't want to read anything about God because I correlated with religion. I can totally relate to that because when I'd first gone to ECETI, it was like my senior year of college. And my dad was going there for like from a workshop. And so it was like some long weekend. He's like, do you want to go to Washington? And I'm like, yeah, I've never been out there. It'd be cool. So I didn't look this place up. I just went with him. And so that was actually the first place I also went to that I'm like, wait, there's other people. Like, it's not just me and my parents. Like, there's others, and they know more, and there's so much we can talk about. Like,
I know, right?
Oh my gosh, I remember coming back that weekend back to college, and I was like, oh my gosh, like my world has completely changed because there's others. Because I don't know why, but I didn't know anyone else that was like that in school. And then like the fact that you could find a place that people go for workshops and they're like in the know, like it blew my mind.
Well, and obviously I knew there had to be other people into this, but like I'm like, are there going to be anyone my age, or like are there just gonna be like weirdos? Am I going to be able to connect with anyone? Like, I didn't know. I just had to like start going to conferences, and 2017 was the year I kind of decided that. I wanted to go to ECETI that year actually, and the next year, but I wasn't able to. And then I ended up going to Contact in the Desert the next year.
Okay, that's a large one, right?
Yeah, which is huge, but that was really expensive. So I went to that, and then the Dimensions of Disclosure that year in Colorado. Okay. And I wanted to go to ECETI, but I couldn't afford another conference. So I was like,
you got to make the rounds of doing the ones that like you see fit, you know?
Yeah. So if I would have went to ECETI that year, I might've met you there, actually that year.
Yeah. When I was first there, it was, what year was this? Like 2015. And then really? And then I didn't go back till 2018.
Oh, so it was a little. Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, that was like the first time that I realized there were others, and I met other people, you know, that were like in the know, but I didn't know what to do with that information. I'm like, okay, this is amazing. I'm going to keep on growing, you know, because I was studying advertising at the time, and then I went off to New York and did the corporate ad world. So I was still kind of doing spiritual stuff by reading Drunvalo's books and sacred geometry and learning about Dolores and stuff. But I was kind of trying to juggle like a regular day life and spirituality and kind of grow in that realm, you know, in both realms actually, you know. And
what's really cool is that a lot of people, we get geared up to go to a conference. We know what we're getting into. You had no idea. You're just like showing up at ECETI with no idea where you're ending up. And that's what's cool about it. That's what's cool, because it just like, it was a surprise. It was a surprise to you.
It was a complete shock. Yeah, it was a complete shock.
That's a little different because you know, you're only going to a conference because you know about the conference. So
most people, and like I said, like my dad was like, "Hey, do you want to go to a workshop?" I'm like, "Okay." Like I didn't even ask. I was like, "Okay, fine. Like I'll go to Washington." I've heard beautiful things about the state, you know. And then, like I said, like my mind was blown, and I found that there's other people, and eventually I came back and found that this is like something that, I mean, you guys have been to ECETI. It's a beautiful place, you know, like
it's a magic
there, the people, everyone's like working on some kind of cool project, you know. It's cool.
Did you happen to have any ET or Sasquatch experiences out there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we've all seen the shot flying ships.
I mean, like on a more of a personal
personal. Yeah, I had this really weird like, I guess it's a Bigfoot experience. I didn't physically see Bigfoot, but I said that I was there for like a week and a half or something back in 2018, right? For like a little bit of a longer stay. And so one morning I got up as the sun was rising and I was going to the restrooms to get ready for the day. And I was walking, right, and out of nowhere I heard these really large, like heavy footsteps, like boom, 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 boom. And it's as if it was maybe like 10 or 15 feet in front of me. And it was kind of still like not, the sun wasn't up yet. So it was kind of like in between darkness and light. I don't know what that's called, like dawn.
Dusk or dawn, yeah.
Yeah. So I hear these giant footsteps, like kind of as if it's running towards me 15 feet away, but I'm like, there's nothing there. And so I'm like, okay, that was really weird. And I'm just going to go on with my day. And I had remembered that the night before, I remember thinking, oh, I'd love to see Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but I don't want to be scared. I'm like, my only condition is it has to not be in the middle of the night. And so when I started talking to other people that were in Eddie at the time, I told them that I heard these really strange, like really heavy footsteps, but there was nothing in front of me. And they're like, oh, that definitely could have been like a Bigfoot. So, I mean, that's the only explanation I could have, that because they're known to be like fourth dimensional beings, right? That can phase into third. So that would make sense that I can't physically see them, but I can hear their steps.
Correct. Yeah.
At that point, those running steps, so that's like my most, I guess, interesting encounter with them, is just hearing giant footsteps run towards me and then just phase away.
That kind of happened to me also. Out of East Eddie. Same. I actually, like, every day I had something going on out there, but the footsteps, I heard like a howl or a roar or grunt. I don't know.
There's also weird noises. There's some weird noises out there that are not like cattle or coyotes.
No. Yeah, exactly. It's weird.
You got a rock thrown at him.
I had a rock thrown at me.
And there was no one there.
That was the coolest.
It was right when he asked.
What the heck was that?
It was right when he asked for confirmation of the previous encounter. And a rock came and hit him in the leg.
Yeah, we had some stuff happen the night before, and I went to the medicine wheel out there or whatever, and I did a meditation by the Sasquatch area, and I just wanted some type of confirmation, and I walked to the car, and on the way back, there's a tree line, and there's nothing over there, and I got hit in the thigh with a pebble. It didn't hurt, but it was like a friendly toss, but it was just
it was
like nudging you, like it was real.
I looked around, there's no one around that could have thrown it, so I knew, you kind of know.
Well, then he told James, I think, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they love throwing rocks. They do that all the time." Yeah.
Right. And then you start talking to the people. They're like, "Oh, that's normal." Like, "Oh, okay." Like, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I just was unaware.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the guests that you've had on, because I know just from doing this, like, it's so cool because we get to learn so much every week talking to these people. Like, is there any like specific information or guests that you've had to have just like stood out, like even you learned something like that you didn't know?
Oh man, I feel like I've learned something from every single person that's come on. Like truly, like as I think one of my favorite episodes was with John Vivanco.
Nice.
He does remote viewing, and I think that specifically
awesome.
it was very resonating with me because I had just finished his workshop. And so to be able to relay the information that I learned from remote viewing, because I also jumped into that blind where I'm like, I don't know what remote viewing is, but I'll try this out. I just kind of jumped into it. And so I didn't really have any preconceived notions of what it was. I thought maybe if anything, it was like astral projecting, which is not. So interviewing him to hear his whole experience about how he got into it and what it really was, and being able to share my own, I think that was, one of my most favorite episodes. But I mean, oh man, I've had such a blessing to have all these really cool people on. Goodness, I mean, I've learned. I'm doing like a hypnosis mini series right now.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So that's been like really fun for me.
Yeah, you got Alba Weinman on.
Yeah. I just had Alba Weinman on, and I'm going to be uploading other episodes soon with a different man named Antonio Sanjo, who does hypnosis as well, but he kind of focuses on a different type of territory of hypnosis, more like soul fragmentation and things like that. Different types versus spiritual evolution. So yeah, I think that that was like a really interesting one recently, that I just didn't know a lot about soul fragmentation. Like, I knew if there's severe trauma, your soul can fragment, but how do you get those pieces back together? that's something where I'm like, wow, I just don't know. I don't know. This is something that's really different and interesting to me, you know? So.
Well, tell us about it. We want to know.
I mean, there's basically a process where you have to go back and feel through all those feelings, right? That wherever the trauma happened, you have, like anything even in 3D, if you want to kind of heal through things, you have to go through it versus put it under the rug, right? So a component of it, from my understanding, is that you have to kind of go back into whatever life was or whatever scenario caused the soul fragmentation. And then there's a different process, but I'm not privy to that information yet.
Sure.
So
yeah, there's so many different practices.
There's a lot of different modalities. That's what I think is really cool, because you can do like the Rife machine, you can eat well, there's so many different ways to heal depending on what is needed for you specifically, you know?
Yeah.
Which is what I think is incredible, because some people may really resonate with hypnosis and others might not, you know, so then they can try there's so many other methods and techniques and things. It doesn't mean that none of them work. It just, you have to find out what resonates with literally your frequency, you know, and with what your needs are.
That's the same with anything, like even just physically working out. I used to work out a lot when I was younger, and there would be so many people that tell you, oh, you got to be doing this. You got to be doing this. This is the way to do it. But it's like, no, that works for you. You know, it's because it works for you. It doesn't work for me.
Kind of like diets.
Or same with the diet.
Tell you a blanket diet that everyone should do. And it's like, no, everyone's different. Everyone's body needs different needs.
Exactly. It's completely agree.
Yeah, exactly. And like vaccines, they're telling us we all need a vaccine.
Well, everyone needs it. And if they all work, we all need one, right?
Yeah. Man, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit and jump into some current events. And I was kind of curious, like, do you follow Q at all? I know you know Q is.
I know about Q. I don't follow like every single post that happens. But I do believe in the power of Q and the force that is awakening the masses, truly.
Yeah. And that it's a real.
I think it's absolutely a real thing.
Dude in his basement.
No. I think it's a truly, in my opinion, it's a benevolent organization.
Well, I'm wearing a shirt, so it has.
Yeah, and I see your shirt. Yeah.
Better say you believe in Q.
No, I really do think it's a benevolent force, truly.
Yeah.
The more and more I get involved in it, the more I honestly think there's some type of extraterrestrial
I was
force.
just gonna say that. Like, I think there's some benevolent ET involvement.
There's so many synchronicities and just personal things that happen in my life that somehow tie into Q when it shouldn't. And I think they're just trying to let you know, like, there's a greater power behind this.
Yeah, well, remember James Gilliland said before Q ever came out, months before he came out, he was getting, because he talks like Pleiadians and other beings like telepathically, and he said they kept telling him Q, they just were giving him Q, and he didn't know what that meant. It's like, he's like, what is Q? What does this mean? And he said he thought it meant Kuan Yin, or he's like,
yeah, that's what I was thinking, maybe like one of the other beings.
Are you saying Q, the character from Star Trek? Like what does that mean though? Yeah. And he's like, Q. He's like, I kept getting it over and over, Q. And he's like, I didn't know what it meant, and I kept asking him, they wouldn't tell me. And then he said a few months later, Q comes out making all these posts, and he's like, oh, there it is.
So that's kind of cool.
So that was a cool confirmation.
Right off the bat, he knew, okay, so this is legit, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, anyone can take that for what it is, but I think that's huge. Like
I think that's huge, because I know James. I mean, if you know James, then you you know he's legit and he's not making up stuff.
Yeah, he's a very genuine person. So I mean, there's no reason.
If you've been to East Eddie, you should know. You should know that.
And a genuine sense of humor.
Then
I was cracking up.
Him saying that kind of gives it a lot of weight, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Recently though with Q, I know that so there's this woman I had met here in Chicago at a Q meetup, and she got Q'd. Like, she was posted on Q
Really?
That said that, yeah. I'm trying to think of her name. What is her Twitter name? Let me look it up right now so you guys
your viewers
can check her out. She does these really cool things where she will post banners, these giant banners above a really popular highway that leads into the city, and it'll say all like whether, let's say 1 week is about media, right? And she'll hashtag like media corruption.
I saw something shared on Facebook that it said it was in Chicago, so I'm wondering if that was
this is her. Yeah, she's like the woman that posts all this stuff, and if people are like into it, they'll honk or something, and she'll take photos of people honking and smiling as they're driving by these giant like truth blasts across the highway. Awesome. It's very cool. Yeah, here, let me get her Twitter here so you guys can, your viewers can check her out. Let's see. Okay.
We actually, a guest we had on recently got cued.
Yeah? Oh, tell me more. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we had this girl named Anna on that she is in Finland. Actually, she's Finnish.
Okay.
And she went to a Q meetup in Finland, and Q posted a link to a photo that somebody uploaded on Twitter of their meetup and the picture of them. And she's in the picture. She was,
that's cool.
And it got huge. It was like huge too. Yeah. It was like
She actually messaged me. She's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, she messaged both of us. She's like, "Oh my god, I got cued."
That's really cool. Yeah. That's really awesome.
And we had just had her on like a couple weeks before that.
Perfect. Look at that synchronicity, right? It all lines
up. Yeah, we were like, "What? That's awesome."
Absolutely.
That's really cool. So this lady, her name on Twitter, it's called the People's Bridge. I'll show you if you guys can check it out here. If you can see that. There's a glare.
I see it.
People's Bridge. So that's her handle is called Whales Warrior, like the animal, like the whale that lives underwater. So definitely worth checking out. She has incredible posts and definitely a warrior for truth and Q. She's a really, really badass woman.
Awesome. Maybe we'll get her on the show sometime.
Yeah. Actually, that's. I think I've seen some of her pictures, but that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, she's there very often. Like, I actually really want to go like to the bridge one day like this, like in a weekend or something, you know.
Do an interview with her on the bridge.
On the bridge.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking. Like, that'd be really cool. Like, what a cool opportunity, you know. Because I mean, in Chicago, I don't know how it is in St. Louis, but I mean, I feel like there's pockets of awakened, like, go-getting warriors.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But we're just not nearly as loud as other.
No. It's understandable. I mean,
there's everything in St. Louis if you search and find it. Basically, I've realized like it's just not as big and as in other.
Well, it's like
there's every community though. If you look enough, you'll find.
Well, that's with everything. I just found out the other day there was a PDGA, Pro Disc Golf Association. But it's like
my brother's into disc golf.
Like PGA, but disc golf, but then it's massive. I'm like, this is like hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, and it's this huge.
It's like an association of.
Yeah, and I had never heard of it. It really made me think of like, this is the same type of situation we're seeing with this awakening information, this disclosure information. It seems so big and so many people, but there's some people out there who've just never been.
Oh yeah, you'll say any of this stuff, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like we had Jason Quinn on not too long ago, and he was saying this. He's like, yeah, I mean, you talk to 20 people on the street, and probably none or maybe one of them will have any idea what you're talking about any of this stuff. So it's like it's growing and it's getting out there, But I feel like the Q and like truther, that community is a lot bigger than like the general kind of UFO disclosure or like spiritual even. Well, then the spiritual community is like a separate thing, and then like we're in like the overlap of those two. I feel like
like we're like the conjunction of like both streets, right? Like I definitely agree.
There's a lot of spiritual new age people that are not into any UFO ET stuff.
Yeah.
You especially anything they consider
it's too conspiratorial.
Yeah, conspiratorial or right wing or whatever, because I know a lot of people like that, and you try to talk to them about Q or even ETs or UFOs or anything like that, and they're like, what?
I have noticed that where sometimes you'll find groups that you think could be like super spiritual, and you're like, oh, maybe this is like the doorway to everything, right? But then you're like, oh, okay, that's okay. Like, that's good that they're focusing on like law of attraction and crystals and all this stuff.
It's good as long as you don't get caught up in the, because I do think there's like certain beliefs that get propagated in those communities that are misleading and false and take you down the wrong path. Like, whereas you only focus on love and light, and you like, if I look at anything that's negative, I'm creating it and I'm perpetuating it. So I got to just ignore everything, all the bad, negative.
Yeah, that kind of creates the whole ignorance is bliss scenario.
Yeah,
which also
it's a total like that's a twisting of that teaching, and but that's unfortunately very prevalent in the New Age community. And James speaks out on that all the time. And
I mean, it's true. Really not doing anything good.
No, it's,
it's perpetuating what is already.
Exactly. And that's how evil thrives, is when everyone wants to stick their head in the sand and ignore it. And
but I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this is like the best time to be alive. Like, I don't know. I'm so happy. It is such a good time.
That's like an understatement.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, we're in the most incredible time on this planet, in my personal opinion.
I agree.
In the history of the planet.
We're so lucky to be here right now and doing what we both do. Like, you guys do interviews. We get to spread this light and spread this truth to people, and I just think it's such a gift that we can do all this and enjoy and have a good time while we're doing it,
Yeah.
Awesome.
I used to think the best time to be alive would be when the pyramids were being built, because I always wanted to know.
Or Atlantis or some ancient civilization that was amazing.
But
it's cool too, though.
Granted, those would have been amazing and I'm sure many of us have had past lives in those civilizations. But I think it's so cool that like we're at a time right now where like we've been in this long stretch of like this age of ignorance and oppression and everything else, and we're right at the point where we're all like the world's waking up, and they're like the ascension's happening. It's happening right now. We're literally getting to witness the destruction of the old and the cabal.
It's crumbling
and, the old
right
guard.
in front of us.
And the old systems and everything else, and seeing the new like bud up out of that, and we're literally like alive to witness it and be a part of it firsthand and like participate, and it's incredible.
And we all, when it comes down to, is we all signed up to be here at this time.
Yeah.
And but see, a lot of people, I think we say that, but they don't realize that we actually physically
we literally incarnated at this time.
Like, we raised our hands and we came down here. This is what we'd like to do.
Star seeds.
That takes a lot. That takes a lot of awakening to get to that point, to realize that that's actually what happened.
Yeah, and a lot of courage too, because I feel there are a lot of people that are waking up now, but like I was scared for a long time to like talk about this en masse. Like, it just was truly a big fear of mine internally, and thank goodness I'm over it now. But I mean, it takes courage not just to learn about this stuff and open your own eyes, but to then really be like, okay, let's share, let's talk, let's have these conversations that some people will be okay with and others might just shut you out right away.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of comes with the territory.
And now look at you now. You're out here doing this.
Doing it. Yeah, thank you.
Right off the bat, you started off with some of the biggest names you could have hoped for.
Yeah, truly. I mean, it was just such a, like I said, it was just a blessing that it all happened.
Did you message Corey, or did he message you, or like how did you?
How'd that happen?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
So I spoke with him at ESETI in 2019, this past summer.
The one we were at.
Because he was there. Yeah. I had met him prior once before. But yeah, I spoke with him and he was down for it. So
nice.
It worked out.
That's really
amazing.
Yeah, you have a very welcoming face and voice, so I'm sure he was glad to do it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was a bit nervous to interview him because he's quite popular.
Yeah, he's a big
sure.
He's
but
down to earth though. That's the thing.
Oh yeah. I was that was really nice. I feel like a lot of people in the community are very down to earth. Because we're regular people. We just happen to also have a passion to speak the truth and to share it.
And some of us have just gotten out there more bigger than others, and
just because I feel like follower count, especially like in society now, everyone's like, oh, how many followers do you have? Like, it's a big deal for like social currency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I think your message matters more.
Yeah, well, we're in a genuine community that doesn't, most of us at least don't care about that kind of stuff. We just want to get this information out there and to grow this community and help with that.
But we still get pissed when we get censored.
But it doesn't change that.
Yeah.
It just limits the opportunity to share the information.
It's like you don't want the followers, but when you watch them go backwards, it's like, come on now, guys.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of that with our channel, but we're smaller, so we don't get the heavy stuff. But we still have them. But did you see just today? Cosmic Secret got censored on Facebook. Their ad that they were running.
Really?
Facebook shut it down. Yeah, they gave them like a BS reason.
Excuse for it.
Yeah, that doesn't.
No, Facebook is becoming an entirely different entity than its original way of how I feel like everyday people used it. Like it's its own thing. It's becoming something else.
It has its own consciousness.
Yeah.
When you understand what Facebook really is and who's behind it, everything makes sense.
Is it surprising?
It's a DARPA created program to collect data on everyone and
the people will fill it out themselves with joy, I did when I made the account long ago. Like I thought this was the coolest thing. We all probably thought that.
They're just collecting everyone's data and facial recognition database.
What's interesting is when it first started, you had to be a member of a college. You had to be.
Yeah, because my brother had before I did when it was still a college.
So
thing.
if you weren't going to school, the university, you couldn't start a Facebook page, or you could just lie and say you were like I did.
My brother was showing it to me when it was still that, and I couldn't do it. He's like, "Look how cool is Facebook," and I was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! Like, can I do it?" He's like, "No, you have to be in a college.
You have to have an education, bro."
I think that was when MySpace was first taking off too. I think I just got that. I didn't care.
MySpace days.
MySpace, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man! So, any other like exciting future plans you have for your channel, or do you have any like?
Yeah, I can share some things that I'm looking forward to. So right now I'm looking forward to expanding the channel to Spotify and iTunes and to other like more podcast platforms.
Yeah, like us.
Yeah. Because a lot of people have asked me, kind of how you guys said people were asking about video for you. A lot of people have asked me to just do audio, like while they're driving in the car. So I'm like, okay, I could do that. Like I already put up the video. I could just put the audio and put it on Spotify. So that's something new that I'm looking forward to get done for the new year, for 2020. Cool. So that's like the next big thing, is trying to just put it on a more podcasting platform, so you can listen to it on the go. And then I've got a good number of interviews lining up, and I also want to kind of create a new segment called like Tricia's Talks. That'll still be hosted on 90 Degree Turns YouTube channel, but it'll be more of like a different series where I'll be able to just talk about whatever topic I feel like that I think the community needs, or that may be something I'm going through or other people are going through, and I want to kind of share my thoughts in it. So it's still going to very much revolve around 90 Degree Turns. Cosmic Table Talk will continue to produce more content. We actually have we're recording this week for the 3rd episode, so it's still very young in its phase of growth, but we're going to definitely continue there, and we'll see what 2020 brings, though. I am very excited for it. Like,
same.
So
it's going to be an incredible year.
Oh my gosh. If 2019, if it can even match 2019, I'd be happy, but I'm pretty sure with the 2020 clear vision, it's going to be like
blow 2019 out.
We're going to have so much stuff to talk about as far as what's happening, the disclosure wise, and everything being exposed. So much stuff is going to come to light. I feel like this year it's going to be amazing for us content provider. What am I trying to say?
Content providers. Content creators.
There we go. It's going to be a good time, though, for sure.
No, content creators. But it's going to be great because it's going to be so much to talk about. It's going to be really.
I mean, as if 2019 wasn't. Like that.
Laying the base.
It's going to be more so.
Yeah. So, do you plan on hitting up any conferences and like?
In 2020?
Yeah.
I always really like Useti, so I think I'll definitely I'm hoping that I can be there in their 4th of July conference. And as for other conferences, I don't know. I don't have any word on any other official ones. I do tend to go to the ones that are more like smaller and more independent.
Yeah.
Although I've heard great things of like about Contact in the Desert and all these other really big ones.
Yeah, it's cool to experience once, but it's honestly, it's not my thing personally, and it's really it's expensive, especially if you're flying there and back.
It's cool that many people are interested in it, but you don't get that same family connection.
Well,
and that's what I look for though, is when I go to conferences, I want to be able to like hang out with people and talk with them and like feel like you're just kind of just chilling, you know, like having a good time together.
Contact used to be at a different venue, and from what I hear, people say that was a little bit more like that feel because it was like outdoors.
It's a different vibe when it's inside of a building, that's for sure. Like it feels more like you're at a stuffy conference.
Exactly.
I don't know. And the energy, it's just, it's different.
There was like 3,000 or 4,000 people. I don't know, like thousands of people there.
That's a ton of people.
So you're just walking through like a sea of people the whole time. And it was a little overwhelming, honestly, because of that, but it was cool. Like, I'm glad I got to experience a massive conference once to see what it was like.
And now you know, you're pursuing.
Because I'd already been to the small ones before that. I'm like, this is it right here. This is what I love, because it's like an intimate.
Yeah, it's that you really feel like it's a community. Are you guys planning to go back to ECETI anytime soon?
Yes, I'm definitely going next year.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, we have to figure out, because we want to go together and like do the podcast.
I'm gonna make Tyler
the podcast
go.
together. So we plan on hitting up a couple conferences for sure.
Great.
Dimensions, if they do it again, which they're planning on doing it again next year.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do it again. I don't know where yet.
They've been changing the location every year, so that's the only thing. It's like we don't know where.
That's cool though.
So. Yeah. But I love that. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that conference a lot too. That one was nice. Like, cause you got to have like, this is the first time I was there was this year. And so you had like the beach right nearby, right? And it was in a hotel, but you could have that space to breathe, you know, and kind of like disconnect and then go back and be like, okay, let's talk and chat.
Yeah. That conference, it's had a completely different feel every single year.
Nice.
And so yeah, it's grown like every year, but that first year was by far my favorite. The Colorado one was also awesome. Yeah, but I hope they go back to more of an outdoors thing kind of next year, where we're more out in nature rather than a hotel.
I think that'd be wonderful.
Because that's my favorite.
We gotta submit them like a little suggestion box or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I've been talking to Kaylin because I know she helps with the event every year. I've been putting that in here. I'm like, outdoors, like nature. Yeah.
It's better because people connect with that. Not, you're in a hotel with like Wi-Fi and
all
this
that.
internet. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just something about being out in nature. It makes it so much more magical and like
just connected.
I
don't know. I feel like we all come from nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So being there, I think the information resonates in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And camping, I don't know. I love camping. So to me, if I can just go camping and be at an event, it's like
yeah. Amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess we'll start wrapping it up.
Okay.
Unless you have anything else that you want to touch on or tell us about.
I mean, I'm open to whatever you guys want to talk about. I feel like we've covered a lot of different interesting topics. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you guys, are you familiar with the report that came out yesterday? Or not yesterday? No, on Monday, on the 9th.
Yeah.
It's like the IG report.
So the IG
report.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then
that was yesterday, right?
So and then the Q drop said like it was and it's like coming out in order. The IG report, then the I forgot.
FISA?
The FISA.
It's tomorrow, right?
And then the indictments. I forgot the order.
Yeah. There's a whole order. Yeah.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
I haven't actually looked into it or any of it. So
I've just seen kind of like what people are saying, and like I watched Jordan Sather, a couple of his videos.
Yeah.
I haven't had too much time to dig into it that much at all either, but I think it's important to mention that it's out.
Yeah, but well, the funny thing is, I'll say two things. So everyone that's in the truther community has been saying it's like what we've been saying all along. It's like the proof, but then the mainstream, and this was like what everyone knew was going to happen. The mainstream media is totally putting their spin on it, as saying, oh, it's showing that the Russia probe was justified and the FBI was justified. And it's like, it's not.
Yeah, they keep on repeating this quote there where it's like there was no physical or testimonial evidence.
And they're like, oh, look, it's showing that it was, and they're just totally putting their spin on it and lying. which is funny.
Yeah, but it's a big report. It's like 400 something pages. Like it's
500
heavy.
pages, I think. Yeah. James Comey, his name in it is misspelled as corny for some reason. It's misspelled, yeah, Corney instead of Comey. But it's an obvious, like, there's no way they would just misspell his name every single time as corny unless they're intentionally doing it. But there's a Q back in March misspelled James Comey as James Corney back in March.
Interesting.
And then it's
look at those links
report as cornies. And there's other stuff that goes along with that too. That's like a Q proof, so to speak. And so that's like a huge thing.
Was that one of them that Jordan shared?
Jordan, yeah, in his video he just released today. I literally listened to it on the drive to your house today. He was going over that, and like there's like 7 huge Q proofs just from that report and from something that like Trump said, and then like stuff that's happened just in the last couple of days.
Shit, it happens like every day anyway. We just
yeah. I mean, but like that's a huge one, honestly. Yeah.
That is. I think it just shows more proof to how Q really is a true operation.
Yeah, and it's not a guy.
It's not just a person. It's definitely not.
There's a team of people that are working.
Yeah, I've never had a feeling. Yeah. I've never had an inkling of a feeling that it was just one person.
No, that'd be so much work. Who could do all that? First of all, like, who can handle all of that?
No way.
You know, like,
you'd have to be a genius and you have to be 10 places at once. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe they've got some advanced tech that we haven't reached yet.
Well, yeah, there you go. The looking glass technology.
Yeah, and somehow the FBI and CIA and everything else haven't been able to find the guy or guys who are doing this hoax, what they claim it is. Like,
you know, it's interesting though when I meet people and some of them it's like, oh, Q is a hoax and stuff. I'm like, well, honestly, if it is, it's still getting people to think. It's still making people question. So ultimately, like, I don't think there's really a bad spin on this. In like, if you think it's a hoax, but people are asking and researching,
it's really simple to me though. It's like if it was a hoax and it was just random guys doing this, they would have found a long time ago who it was.
Oh yeah, and we know when people are trying to distract you from that truth and they're writing like smear articles and having a whole smear campaign against Q, maybe that's someplace you should be looking. You know?
Yes, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
Why would they waste their time trying to debunk it if it wasn't anything?
Yeah, why would every mainstream media outlet...
That's a conspiracy theory, though. You know,
that's why Q even put...
All the tinfoil hat people say that.
Q itself even says, like, all for a LARP, ? Like, all this... doesn't make any sense unless it's...
They would have suicided if it'd just be one person. It'd be easy.
Exactly.
It'd be a really easy job.
Yeah, exactly. They would have shut it down a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. So
I guess I lied. I guess we weren't wrapping it up.
That's like half the time we say that, and then 20 minutes later, we're still
going. No, that's the beauty of it, though. Yeah. Oh, what do you guys think? I'm just gonna go just mainstream cliche here. What do you guys think about like actually seeing some type of UFO disclosure mainstream, like worldwide, like to where the mainstream media is actually going to acknowledge it?
I don't think it's ever going to happen through the mainstream media, governments, until the deep state, because the deep state's the ones that have been blocking it this whole time, right? Sure. And they're the ones controlling the mainstream media and government ultimately. So until they are fully out of control of everything, it's going to come from there. But I think it's going to start coming, and it's been coming from
I think
places.
What I'm saying is, like, I still think it's going to come from them, but if it does, it's going to have a negative spin.
I think it definitely will come out, but I think, like, it's a controlled narrative. It'll be like the partial disclosure where they'll say, oh, look, we found some really interesting artifacts in Antarctica. Use discernment, but ultimately, I think in our lifetime, we'll definitely see, I think disclosures already, there's been so much that's happened in the past few years that to me, it's already more than I could have ever imagined, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think in our lifetime, we'll definitely see a disclosure of alien. I don't think that's a big deal, but maybe just because we're in this community, you know, that we don't think I don't think it's that big of a deal, maybe to many other people. Cause you saw like the mainstream caught on to the whole Area 51 thing, you know? Yeah. That could be to distract them from all the other bases that actually have interesting artifacts, you know?
Yeah.
You know, but they are catching on to what people find interesting and captivating, you know? And
I think what's going to happen first is the technology is going to start getting released. And then because really what needs to happen is our whole structure of everything needs to change. We need to get rid of gas, coal, and oil completely. Get rid of all these structures that are not working for us. And they're going to bring out the technologies. We're going to clean up the planet, because that needs to happen ASAP. Clean up the planet. No more people starving to death on the planet. And
while athletes are getting paid.
So no more struggling to survive and people starving needlessly, because we've had the technology for a while for that, and free energy eventually. And basically I think our whole society is going to undergo a transformation where we're going to become what we should have been a long time ago. Then at some point we're going to start having open contact with ETs, and that end of disclosure is going to happen, I think. But
you mean kind of like open contact, like in a mass kind of thing, versus like, because right now some people are able to like
because you can do that right
and you
now.
can telepathically, you know what I mean? But as like a global phenomenon that, look, these are beings more astral than it is physical, right? So once the consciousness raises on a level that's open to the opportunity, you know, which I think it's happening, then it can come into the physical more so.
Yeah, you know? Well, there's some that are
having contact. Like
there's some that are physical, and there's some that can phase in and out. And so like we could be having open contact right now. It's just that we have this control that's still there.
Because you look at the programming, like from movies and stuff, most of the alien programming is that they're here to kill us. Exactly. You know, they're here to take us over. There's some darker entities out there, you know, and that's something that, I mean, they're already on this earth. It's not really a surprise.
Yeah.
They're already here.
That's what I was getting at as far as like the negative twist on it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw like on the news a UFO wreck, and then they like just totally say this is a threat. They were trying to attack us. We shot them down.
Yeah, they'll just manipulate the story. Oh, that I could absolutely see.
That's the deep state's controlled narrative. Is it's a threat. You need to be afraid of it in the whole fear agenda. Because
it's like what they've done with religion. Generally, a lot of religions are like God-fearing, right? Fear the one creator. Like, really? You know, but that's how it's kind of sent to the public, and that's what they can continue to push that narrative. They stage a fake crash landing and like, oh, we took them, we killed them for you guys, they were gonna eat your brains, or whatever crap they want to say. You know, create an imaginative story, just so then you're like, oh no, it plants in your subconscious, and then you're kind of scared of other entities, you know. But then you think like,
keeps us at a low vibration. Also
it keeps you at a low vibration, and it's
separates us from ever wanting contact with them.
But people have tried to have contact. I don't remember the exact year, but there's this special like disc or something that they sent out into space. It's like a sound record. It's like a record that they sent out that's supposed to have different things about the human species and Earth on it. I think it was set in like the 70s or something. I'm not exactly sure, right? So that was like their effort to be like, hey, we're human, we're out here, right? And then you see beings come out to Earth and all this stuff, and then look what happens. They start taking them and researching on them and doing all these awful things and having really unique agreements, you know, that maybe are benevolent to some beings for their agenda, maybe not so great for the evolution of humanity. But it's really interesting to see what'll happen. Like I do think that we're already having contact. It's just a matter of the collective realizing that there's so much more than we've been told.
Well, there's ships flying around all the time for one thing, and people, and that's been happening more and more over the last just few years.
Yeah,
like, the sightings are just going through the roof.
And Air Force people can tell you all the time they've seen stuff. They just had to sign like non-disclosure agreements to not talk about it.
Yeah,
you know,
well, I walked outside today and the stealth bomber was flying over my house. I couldn't believe it. It was pretty.
Wow.
I mean, it's not a UFO, but I was telling him, you don't see it. At first, I'm so, you know, we hear TR3B, black triangle. I look up and see a triangle in the sky. I was like, holy
like shit. TR3B?
But just the fact, like the flight pattern just ended up directly over my house. And it was so low and it was just cruising along so slow. It was the coolest. It just rumbled the whole area. Just.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
They knew where you lived.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the idea of like multiple Earths? Like, you guys thought about that idea? Like that there's more than one Earth, right? Like this is like where we are is one, right? And that's why we notice and see different things because we're at a different frequency.
Do you mean dimensionally, like, or physically?
dimensionally. Yeah. But like, it in turn would be like almost a physical different reality, right? Which is why
like the one Sasquatch is living in. Let's just
like other densities, I guess, of Earth, right? Because if I think of like when I wasn't maybe as spiritually awake, I saw things in a different reality through a different lens, right? And so my whole experience of life was very different than what I have right now, right? And so I don't know, to me, I think it's a really interesting concept to think of that we have multiple Earths, right? And depending on your own frequency is then the reality you experience.
Because I would consider there's two different things. There's densities or some dimensions. Some people use those two terms interchangeably.
I don't know if they're exactly the same or just very similar. Like I confused.
Yeah, I like density better because it's a little bit, I don't know, to me it's more clarity there.
I think it could mean the same. It's just terminology, whatever.
It's terminology, but there's that. So there's the higher your vibration basically raises the, you can go to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. And then there's, I would call like parallel realities almost, or timelines. I would use those two interchangeably where, and that's where like you see the Mandela effect happening right now. And to me, that's because the timelines are converging right now. Because we're coming up on this nexus point of like the solar flash and that whole thing where the timelines all converge. But and depending on your choices that you make and your vibration, everything else depends on like, you're either going in a more of a positive direction or a negative. And I have heard many people talk about there's like ultimately there's like smaller timelines, but then there's like a main like negative timeline that some people are going to go down, and there's a positive one that leads to the ascension.
Is that what you were talking about as far as?
Something of that nature, but more like I want to relate it to the idea of seeing other craft and beings, right? Because what I was thinking about is if we're of a certain frequency and vibration, the collectively raises their vibration, right? I feel like being able to see craft and things like that won't be such a surprise. It'll become more like when you see a cloud.
Okay.
I just thought it an interesting concept because you guys asked about if we'll be able to see it. And I think ultimately if we can all raise our vibration as a collective, then I think we'll be seeing things.
It's already there.
Yeah. It's already there. It's just a matter of us raising like a radio, just tuning ourselves to that.
Now, are your parents, are you guys contactees on any level?
I am not. My mom has had some really weird experiences.
Really? I mean, it just has because for them to be awake, Yeah.
I mean, their journey, but they weren't awake their whole lives. Like their journey probably started maybe like 2000. I don't know. They've both been very open-minded for a long time. They grew up in a culture that was very, very Catholic, and so once they kind of got into their own, I want to say they've been awake for sure, maybe since like 2005 or 6 or something like that.
Okay.
But I can't speak for them, I could just say from when I remember hearing unique stories, but my mom has had some really interesting experiences. She's really sensitive with energy. So she can feel and like have like premonition thoughts and like dreams and things like that. So she's very sensitive. But my dad's also very just knowledgeable and like a really great researcher.
Yeah.
So they both have their own, I feel like everyone falls into their own path that they really enjoy, and so, I mean, they're a great pair. It's a good balance,
Very cool. Yeah.
And then I'm just doing my own research.
Yeah. Well, it's all for, it's not by accident. That's for sure. No. Yeah. Definitely. I just thought maybe they were contactees or experiencers because.
Yeah. I mean, from what I know, my mom has had some interesting stories, especially from childhood, where it's really unique, so if I had her permission, I could share it here, but I didn't ask her. So.
Well, we do have a phone a friend option.
Yeah. Would you like to phone a friend? He's a lifeline.
Hey, Mom, I'm on Journey to.
Hey, I'm on a show. Could you tell me?
About to win $1 million. I need
to. That's funny. Okay. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up then.
Okay. For real this time, though.
For real this time. For real. Yeah. This is awesome. Thanks for coming on. So glad that you were able to, and we're basically neighbors. You're out down. Chicago, a couple hours.
Yeah. Hey, if you guys are ever out in Chicago area, come on by. Like we can do like a nice tour of the city.
I've been to Chicago multiple times. It's a great city. I like it a lot.
We should make that happen, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll have to take a trip up there. It's only a couple hours. I mean, it's not
four hours, 5 hours, depending on where you're at.
That's really close. St. Louis is really close.
Yeah. I mean, we're right on the border of Illinois, and you guys are just up there.
Okay.
So.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to check it. You guys have the arch out there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never been to the arch. That's the one thing I wanted to see. And then if you guys know any cool like metaphysical like places or
there's
a few,
Cahokia Mounds is really close to here.
That's on the Illinois side. Yeah.
You know what that is? It's
no.
It's like an ancient. Well, the mainstream says Native American, but
it's actually a lot more ancient.
Anybody who remote views it has said it's a Mayan culture. It was just as big as like Chichen Itza or Göbekli Tepe.
Really?
Yeah. So they call them mounds, but you're not allowed to excavate. You're not allowed to do anything.
They're basically pyramids.
They're basically pyramids, and it's massive. It covers I don't know how many miles.
It's big.
At one time there was 50,000 people. They're estimated to be living there, and they have so many artifacts. You can go to the museum, but people have like claimed that there's like essentially like giants buried in mounds, and people have like proven this in their own ways, but not
physically like have the evidence.
Scientifically, exactly. But there's a lot going on there, and that's about 25 minutes away from us. So
that sounds amazing. That sounds really cool. I've never. What is it called again? You said they're called mounds.
Cahokia Mounds. Yeah, it's in Cahokia
Mounds. Yeah. Wow. Okay, I'll have to look into that. That is incredible. That would be cool if you guys do an episode out there or something. Just like we
should do that.
With like a local guide or something.
They actually have their own mini. It's not a Stonehenge. They call it Woodhenge, but it's the same thing. They think it was like some type of sundial that aligned with the planet and all that stuff. And it was.
I believe it.
Yeah.
A lot of the ancient cultures use sundials and things of that nature. Yeah. That's amazing. Wow, that's really cool. I don't know anything like that in Chicago, but we got some other things we could check out.
Yeah. It would take a while to walk around. It's a lot of acres. I don't know the actual acreage, but
I don't either. I know
it's like protected ground though. Like no one can.
You cannot do anything.
Excavate.
It's a tourist site only now.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what like the remote viewers saw, what they found in there.
Yeah, I've heard from a number of different peoples of giant skeletons buried in under those mountains.
And then they don't want to excavate. Why?
Well, and even in the Cosmic Secret, I think, or where did I just see? Like Native Americans were like known for hunting these giants. Like they were the giants. Giants were still around during the mind, like during that time, but they weren't as intelligent as the normal humans. Yeah. So they would actually hunt them and take them out because they were a threat.
Yeah.
And so that would make sense why there would be some buried there.
And then I know in like the 1800s and even like early 1900s, I think they were finding these giant skeletons all over the planet. But then like at a certain point they were like started covering up all of the old papers and evidence of everything, and
they
would come and take the bones and put them in wherever
wherever they hide them. I mean, who knows what they do? Who knows where they put these things?
Because it ruins the narrative. Anything that ruins their narrative, they cover up basically. So
I'm getting ready to laugh just because I said we're gonna wrap it up again.
Yeah, it's like part 3. Okay.
It's a never-ending podcast. We should do that. We would just say hey, we're gonna wrap it up throughout every podcast.
Yeah. Just for no reason, just as a filler.
Yeah. Just because it's funny.
Anyway, we'll definitely have to connect. We'll definitely do this again. We can.
This is a lot of fun.
We should do it in person. I don't know, whatever.
No, it's true. You guys are so close by. I really do appreciate coming onto the show. Thank you so much for having me and letting me share my story. And this is it's great to connect with like minds, so thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you for doing this. So much. And everybody, make sure you subscribe to her YouTube channel. Check her out.
90 Degree Turns.
Cosmic Table Talks, Caribbean Alliance. Check out that YouTube channel also. iTunes, Spotify by the first of the year.
Coming soon.
Yep. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again and have a good night. Good night, everybody who's listening.
All right, see you. Thank you guys. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
See you.